people always portray it as if Russia is like in an absolute decline and nothing is working in Russia, and it's just, whether you like it or not, it's just not the way it is. Transnistria is pretty much what a lot of people think of Belarus or places like Russia.
For example, like Ukraine, for example, has Flixbus. You know, I went from Poland to Ukraine on Flixbus, which went all the way from Leipzig in Germany to Kiev.
Especially for people that are traveling on a budget, in general, Eastern Europe is amazing. Hello and welcome everybody to the Every Country podcast. Today we have another fascinating episode. We will talk about Eastern Europe, what there is to do, what it's like, whether it's safe, and all the things around Eastern Europe. Lots of different things come to my mind, like speaking about Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, but also all of those European countries in Eastern Europe, some of which are very, very fascinating.
European countries in Eastern Europe?
Oh, sorry, EU.
It's alright, it's
EU countries.
That's fine. Yeah, but I think the non-EU countries are the ones that are particularly interesting.
Yeah, because a lot of people want to visit and a lot of people don't know how to visit or whether you can even visit. You know?
Exactly. There's one big change that has happened a couple of months ago, which is Belarus became visa-free.
Belarus is visa-free.
Yeah.
So I visited Belarus a couple of years ago, and back in the days you had this weird system of like you can get a visa like on arrival, but only if you fly in to Minsk.
Yeah.
And then they introduced an e-visa system, and now that is going to end as well, right?
I don't think so. I think it's still the old system, but just for a couple of just a few nationalities. I'm not sure if it's all of the EU countries or so, but a few nationalities they just don't require the visa anymore at the moment. So I think it's still with the, you fly in, you don't need a visa, you want to drive in, you do need a visa. But then I think all of the EU countries, I'm not sure if it's actually like this specific case, but Germany, among others, doesn't require a visa anymore. You could just, cross the border by land. And
you did that recently?
I did that, yeah, me and actually a few of our friends also. It's funny because just now that Belarus became visa-free, everyone's kind of going there. Because, it was always this one country that, I don't know how to get there, because there used to be flights, of course, between Germany or the EU and Belarus, but now it's kind of gotten complicated because you can't do EU to Belarus directly anymore. You have to go through Dubai, for example, or Istanbul or so. So for everyone in Europe, it was kind of like, yeah, I'll do that at some point, but it's not very easy, like infrastructure-wise.
It's almost everyone's last country in Europe. Yeah, Belarus is always last on the list because it's by far the hardest country to visit in Europe, I think.
Yeah, which does mean it's hard. It's, you can still get in visa-free, but you have to go through, as I said, Istanbul or Dubai. And all the other countries in Europe, you can just go there by car, basically. Okay, Russia is also e-visa at the moment. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, Belarus is weird. But I have to say, for everyone except one person that we know, it's been really not a problem getting in. I mean, a real problem was never there. But the border control for us was no questions asked. Just one. We know one person that crossed in through Poland, from Poland. And that was, her phone got searched, and they questioned her for.
That's really interesting because I never had any problems in Eastern Europe, like whether I was going to Russia. I even crossed the land border from Russia to Estonia, whether I flew into Belarus. I never had any problems with my things being searched. And then recently there was our friend who crossed and her phone got searched by the Belarusian authorities.
Right.
And we're like, wow, that's new. Yeah. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, what I think is interesting is she's the only one that we know that crossed from Poland. All the others of us, we crossed from Lithuania. So that was no problem. I don't know if there's more issue at the border, just if you're generally all safer crossing from Lithuania, or if it was just one unlucky officer she had to deal with.
So in general, I think our suggestion, if you want to travel to Belarus, go from Lithuania.
Go from Lithuania, yeah. I mean, it's just 100% quote we have from now. It's really everyone that crossed from Lithuania was no problem, no questions asked, and then one person crossed from Poland. I mean, it's just one person, so we can't say it's generally the case, but it's it's one.
One thing I find very interesting is that typically the border officers that make you more stress are typically on the European side. For me personally, so at least when I went to Russia and I crossed from Russia back to Estonia, like the Russian side is very chill, because they kind of want tourists to come at the moment. And then the European side is like, what do you want in Russia, basically? That's kind of their attitude, and you feel it. So they typically ask you more, and they're like, why are you going?
Exactly. Yeah, no, there was a Swiss guy on the bus from Vilnius to Minsk. There was, was on our bus as well. And he got questioned quite a lot by the Lithuanians. The Belarusian side was no problem. I really feel like throughout the whole stay in the country, I felt like everyone just wanted the tourists to be happy, to be welcome, to feel welcomed. Everyone was just happy, was giving us advice on what to do in the country, even when I left the country. So I spent 2 days in Belarus. Technically, it was just 1 day. So I arrived day one early in the morning, at like 1 a.m. or so. We crossed the border, and then the next day in the very late evening, I left the country again. So my passport stamp it kind of looked like I only spent around 24 hours in the country, even though it was pretty much 48 hours. And the officer, when I left the country at the airport, she was really sad that I only spent 1 day. She was like, "Wow, why? It's such a beautiful country. You should come back. Next time you go to Brest, you go to this place, you go to that place." And I felt like she was really trying to make the country attractive, or represent it in a way that is really, pro-tourism, which I find really interesting, because until a couple of months ago, I really felt like, they don't want any tourists to come.
Yeah, even when I visited back in the day, we made a lot of friends. You have some vegan restaurants in Minsk. I was like, wow, I didn't expect it. Mm-hmm. There's some things that you just don't expect in such a place where you hear so much in the media about. And then I went there and we made lots of friends. I actually had a great time in Minsk as well. And then back in the days, crazy that this was possible. We flew from Minsk to Kiev in Ukraine. Like, that was different times, but wow. One thing that I want to talk about in Eastern Europe is Transnistria. It's a bit of a jump right now, but Transnistria is pretty much what a lot of people think of Belarus or places like Russia. Just as a quick, just for those of you who don't know, Transnistria is situated right between Ukraine and Moldova.
Right.
It's pretty much a country that does not exist, but they do have everything. They have their own border, their own currency. They quite literally have everything except recognition. Yeah. And
so on the UN list, it's part of Moldova, basically.
Yeah.
But it's kind of de facto, it's its own place.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's by far the most Soviet place in Europe that you can go to. There's no doubt about it. It just feels like you're stuck in time in the Soviet 70s or 80s. Yeah. It's absolutely insane. It's such a great experience. You can go from Chisinau, from Moldova. You can literally take a bus. It's super easy. I went on a day trip there and it was super chill. Yeah. But this place is pretty much what people think of Belarus. Yeah. And Belarus is not like this,
No, me too. I thought the same thing.
No, Russia is like that. If you go to Russia and you have all the fancy malls and high-tech stuff, you won't find this in Transnistria. Yeah. So if you want to get this Soviet vibe, go to Transnistria instead. Go to Moldova and take a bus. But Belarus, and that's what a lot of people get wrong, it's not like this. It can be very modern at times, in fact.
Yeah, that's what I find super interesting. For example, I had the same thing in Ukraine, but Belarus also. I expected it even less in Belarus. Everywhere you go, you can pay with Apple Pay.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I always thought, even in the German Foreign Ministry has a line in the, every country has basically like a page on the internet on their website, and there's on the Belarus side there's one line that says, be careful with credit cards and everything. They're only accepted in very limited way. So I thought, okay, let's take some cash just to be sure that we can pay for our stuff, and then you get into the country and everything accepts Apple Pay. Even the lady at the market accepts Apple Pay. It's so funny, so different.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Also, thinking of Russia, I visited last year in December, and people always portray it as if Russia is in an absolute decline and nothing is working in Russia. And it's just, whether you like it or not, it's just not the way it is. Yeah. People go to the malls. Yeah, sure, they don't have McDonald's anymore, but they have McDonald's ski or something. They just changed the name. Completely the same menu. Not much has changed because people step in and fill the gaps of the businesses that left. Yeah. Nevertheless, you still have all the Italian luxury brands and stuff. They're still very active and very much making a profit in Russia. Mm-hmm. Whether you like it or not, it's just not the way that Russia is at the moment.
Yeah. No, it's true. Was it safe though? Because, in the last couple of episodes, we talked about political safety and safety on the street. How did you feel in Russia? Because I would say politically right now, as a European citizen, you might assume that it's not really safe.
Yeah, I think it's important to recall the difference between political safety and safety on the streets. As for safety on the streets, it's insanely safe, probably safer than London or Paris at night. Yeah. As for political safety, I think it depends how you present yourself, mainly on the internet. If you talk about Ukraine a lot, maybe on your social media, and you're very actively campaigning against Russia, then I think you're going to be in trouble. If you're doing something like me, I'm just a bloke trying to visit every country in the world, I don't typically hate on countries. Yeah. I'm not going to be in trouble. So for me, politically, it's pretty safe because I've never really talked much about like the war or something. Sure, if you really talk about the Russian government and you talk negatively about them, then politically it's probably going to be quite unsafe for you. And I would not advise you to go at this point.
Of course. No, that makes sense. I agree. It's just, on the street it's as safe as any other big city, whereas of course cities like London or Rome or whatever, they're exceptionally unsafe, I would say, just because of all the people that are there. But politically, it's just how you said it.
Yeah, so politically you could say it's unsafe for sure. But you know like how in all the travel warnings, they are so focused on political safety. Absolutely, it's actually insane. Yeah. We talked about it, I think, a while ago, that Senegal is safer than Denmark because of political safety, because Denmark is apparently a threat for terrorist attacks. Yeah. And then you look at like Russia travel advisories and they tell you it's the unsafest country in the world. And like, sure, if you are a person who actively fights against the Russian government, that is very true. But if you're not doing it,
if you're just an average citizen,
it's like so much safer than 80% of the countries in the world.
Exactly. No, I agree. But it's easy to get in. E-visa. I remember at the time when I went on a cruise actually to St. Petersburg. That's how I got in without a visa. But back in the days, you needed like a proper visa. You need to go to an embassy, and not the case anymore for us, right?
That's true. They recently introduced, like a year ago, they introduced an e-visa. I actually applied for it like 3-4 weeks after it got issued, like after they started the program.
Oh, really? Was that recent?
Yeah, it was like a month, maybe 2 months max. But I applied for it pretty immediately because I hadn't really visited Russia yet. Yeah. I once had a transit there from going back from Azerbaijan, and we had to go via Moscow because of COVID. So we were rejected at the Georgian border because we had been in Iran, and then they sent us to Azerbaijan, and the cheapest way out was via Moscow back to Berlin.
Nice.
Back in the days. Yeah. Anyway, so I'd never really visited Russia, so I just went, applied for the e-visa. Yeah. It was surprisingly easy. Like, sure, you have to fill out a bit, but it's nothing compared to like an actual visa. It's very, very easy to get. And then the downside, you only get 14 days in the country. At least when I visited. Yeah. So it's not enough if you actually want to explore lots of places and want to do the Trans-Siberian, for example. You'd have to do it on 2 different e-visas. So probably you can apply for an e-visa, fly out, get in with another one, then do the Trans-Siberian one and get out again.
Yeah, no, I agree. Russia is so big. I really want to go back too at some point. It's not on my priority list at the moment, but I've only been to St. Petersburg, so it was nice. But for being the biggest country land-wise in the world, it's kind of you need to see more of just one city.
Yeah, I really want to do the Trans-Siberian at some point. At some point, once the situation is calmer, at some point I want to come back for sure.
Okay, so those were Russia, Belarus, Ukraine. Eastern Europe is not only that; those were probably the most exciting ones. But let's talk about southern Eastern Europe. So you have all the
Balkan countries.
Yeah.
And one thing that jumps to my mind there is how good the transportation is.
Yeah.
And you have this not even just there, but also in Russia, also maybe Ukraine, I'm not sure how it's like at the moment, but certainly also Belarus, Russia, the transportation is amazing.
Yeah.
Like everything is so connected with trains and buses. And especially in the Balkan countries, you can really get around with buses. You can go from one city to the next. You could literally go on a road trip, but with buses.
I think it's also the case with the countries we just talked about. For example, like Ukraine, for example, has Flixbus. I went from Poland to Ukraine on Flixbus, which went all the way from Leipzig in Germany to Kiev.
Yeah.
There's one bus line that connects. You could go from Germany to Kiev on like one bus. I think it's crazy. And then Belarus also the same. You can just book buses online. You can find just Google Vilnius to Minsk or Minsk to Brest or whatever. It's all buses. But you're right. With southern like Balkan countries, they have buses. They also have these minivans that go everywhere. I feel like it's really easy to go from one country to another country or from one city to the next one.
It's easy and cheap.
Yeah. In general, I would say the region is pretty cheap. Yeah. It's funny because in my opinion, for example, Kosovo, which is a country that uses the euro.
Is it a country? Kosovo, you serious? No, just kidding. No. That was not a statement from me. No. I actually went to Kosovo and I really loved it. It was great.
And it's a country it's a place that uses the euro.
Yeah.
But I think it's by far the cheapest country that uses the euro.
I think so.
Right? It's so cheap.
You can get like a really great burger in a restaurant for like €2.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's crazy. You go to a restaurant and you know the prices are like €2.50, €3 for like a big meal. You know, including drinks and stuff. It's
Pristina in general, I really love it. Like everyone speaks German there because there's so many people in Switzerland. Yeah, like all the like Albanians that go to like they go between Switzerland because a lot of them work in Switzerland and then they go back and like drive their cars. So you see a lot of cars with Swiss license plates there.
That is true. I remember that. Yeah.
And imagine living in Switzerland and working there, but going to visit your family in Kosovo like every now and then.
Yeah.
You're rich.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like comparing the prices in the two countries.
I remember in Albania, many people speak German. Like they just talked to us. They just approached us on the street, like, "Hey, you're from Germany, right?" And we got invited to a restaurant. Like someone paid for our food in the restaurant just because we were German and talked to him. Basically, you know, we met at the restaurant and he paid for like my whole family's food.
Wow.
I think it's crazy. Like, Albanian people are so nice in the country when they see you're German.
Even in Bosnia, so many people speak German and they actually use the convertible mark as their currency. They don't use the euro, yes, but it's called convertible mark and it's pegged to the old German mark, which also means that it's pegged to the euro divided by 2.
I didn't know that. Okay. Interesting. I have no idea. But yeah, also in what I was going to say is not in Pristina, but in Prizren, in the southwestern Kosovo. That's where I found a lot of German people.
Yeah, nice. I know you're very well traveled. I've not been there.
Oh, you haven't?
No. I went to Mitrovic, which was very interesting.
No idea where that is.
It's this like border city. Well, Serbians would claim that it's Serbia, I think. No, actually, I think it is Serbia. Is it?
Depending on who you ask, all of Kosovo is Serbia.
Guys, okay, I can't wait to see the keyboard warriors typing. I'll probably get a lot of hate for saying I really like Kosovo and all the Albanians, and I'll also get a lot of hate for making the joke, Kosovo je Srpska. We literally piss everyone off here. That's the beauty of the Every Country podcast. Everyone can hate us equally.
Very nice. Good. That's his goal. So. Yeah, but it's a really nice area for me, in my opinion, to travel. It's beautiful, it's cheap, it's very close to home for Europeans, for Central Europeans. People are friendly. You know, you might argue that food is good. It's not my favorite, but you know.
For me, it's not my favorite because it's not very vegetarian, vegan friendly. True,
but all the people that love just what do they have, cevapi and these kind of stuff.
Cevapcici.
Yeah. I don't know. It's not my favorite. I think it's all right. It's not my least favorite, but it's like, eh.
Yeah, it's very meat based, you know. If you like meat and you like your barbecues and stuff, then probably they're amazing countries for you.
Yeah.
But I personally would prefer another region in general. That's very harsh to say, but I would, like, also food-wise and stuff, I would probably prefer the Baltic countries over the Balkan countries. Yeah. Don't get them confused. No. Baltics are in the north. Balkans are in the south.
Exactly.
Baltics, Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia, absolutely amazing. About as cheap as the Balkan countries as well.
True, yeah.
Bit more remote, maybe not quite as, like, okay, you probably have to fly there if you're coming from Germany.
That's
you know,
true.
like if you live in Austria, you can literally just take a train down to Slovenia or Croatia and you're there.
Right.
Balkans, Baltics, no, I get them confused as well. They're a bit more remote up in the north, but once you're there, they're also very connected. They're insanely developed. Like Estonia, it's about as, like, it's more high-tech than Germany in every possible regard. You know, I would argue they're almost more developed than Germany per capita.
It's funny because Estonia is always this country in Europe everyone looks up to when it comes to digitalization.
Yeah.
You know, it's always, Estonia has already done this and that. They have like I think digital elections or something. You know.
Exactly.
It's so cool. Yeah,
and they have an e-residency. If you want to start a company, you can start your company in Estonia, like digitally. It doesn't give you an actual physical residence, but you can get an e-residency. And basically, what they're saying, which I think is very smart, they're like, pay taxes, and you'll have your company here.
Yeah.
You know, you don't get to live here, but we'll take your taxes, and you get a European company.
That's so cool. Yeah, in general, these places, I think it's so the big problem I have with them is they're cold. I don't think they're very cold.
I feel you. It's just way too cold.
Yeah, it is. But you have a lot of cheap airlines that go there. For example, like Ryanair, you know, flies to pretty much every city up there.
It's true.
You know, and it's like, you know, okay, you have to fly, but it's not very.
And again, once you're there, like living there and all the transportation, it's just divide Germany by 2 quite literally. I'm not sure what it's like right now in this very moment, but Estonia, Latvia is just so much cheaper compared to Germany.
I don't know how much cheaper it is, but you're right. You go to, I was in Lithuania just to go to Belarus, and it was just, you notice, you're like, oh wow, this is a good price, or like how it used to be in Germany. Germany, of course, or pretty much all of the whole world has gotten more expensive. So,
but especially when it comes to rents, I have a good friend from Germany. She studies in Riga, medicine, and she's renting an apartment. I visited her, and it was like huge as apartment for like half the price of what you'd pay in Germany for it, like easily. And you're right, like in the city.
Yeah,
it's insane.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, I mean it's and Riga is, I think it's a really walkable city, right? Yeah. It's so nice. That's what I liked about also Vilnius in my opinion. You can just walk everywhere.
It's amazing. You have all the markets. That's really what I also miss living here in Dubai, to be honest. All this like feeling of like, oh, you can go out, you can just walk. Dubai is a car city, and if you're in Riga, you can just go to the market, get lost on the market, and pay 10 euros and have food for 2 weeks. It's that's what I love about it.
Yeah. Right.
So I think in general we can say, especially for people that are traveling on a budget, in general Eastern Europe is amazing. Yeah. Like it doesn't even matter where you go exactly. Even if you're like, no, Russia, Belarus, Ukraine right now, no, it's not for me. You know, okay, don't go to those places. But give the Baltics a chance, give the Balkans a chance. All those places, they're really great, and people are really happy when you visit those places.
Oh, they are.
There's always this joke on the internet of Americans, how they see Europe, and it's just Italy, France, and Spain.
Exactly.
If you actually go to those countries, people will really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Honestly, that's also a feeling like going back to the other countries now that I had in Ukraine and Belarus. It was really like, well, why are you here? It was like first, they seem confused, but then after a while, when you tell me, well, we're tourists from Europe, and then of course we wouldn't go to like Eastern Ukraine where stuff's going on at the moment. But I mean, the situation does change constantly, and also, but when I went in Western Ukraine, it was really calm, and people were very happy that we were there. We're like, okay, nice, cool.
You visited Ukraine during the war.
Yeah,
I went way before.
Yeah, just a few months ago, and I mean, you didn't really notice it in the west of the country. We had like this app. I'm not sure what it's called again, but basically to get like updates about if anything's happening war related. But it was totally fine in the west. And we talked to many people before that were from Ukraine that still live in Ukraine. They were all like, okay, well, the western part of the country is totally fine to go. What I noticed is that on the street, all the statues were like kind of like wrapped in foil or like really wrapped, I think to protect them from like glass or something, and also there were no men on the street. You barely saw any local men, probably because of military service. That was our explanation for it.
Wow.
But apart from that, Ukraine was a beautiful place, and people were very happy that we were there. Just to okay, cool. Like, of course, the tourism industry was very happy, because there were only people for like voluntary projects were coming there, so the cities were not dead, like the cities were very alive, but it was mostly people, local people or people that were there to help something.
I loved my time in Ukraine. It was amazing. I visited quite some time before the war, and we spent quite some days in Kiev. It was really fun. We went to Chernobyl, did the whole tour there. So many things to do, and it's a huge country as well.
It is.
Very diverse place, and I really hope the situation gets better in the future, and that it will be possible again also for ordinary people to visit.
Exactly.
Even if you're not as much of an adventurer going like, I want to visit Ukraine now. Because right now is probably not the best time to do it.
It's not. No, you're right.
It's possible, that's what people think it's off limits. No, it's not. But you need to be careful,
exactly.
And it is risky in the end.
Yeah.
So if you're not that kind of person, don't go. Obviously.
Right.
And I hope it gets possible again for the ordinary citizen.
It was a quite a bit of preparation, to be honest. Like finding this news channel, to see what's going on, to be always up to date. Then finding just getting information about all the accommodation. They have shelters and everything. It's not as bad in the end, but it's like to just know what exactly is going on at the moment. it's just quite some work.
Honestly, we could talk about Eastern Europe for ages. It's such a huge region and there's so many things to talk about, so many things that we couldn't even touch in this video. But I think we've reached the end of the episode and maybe it gave you a little bit of an overview of, first of all, we really like Eastern Europe and why we like it. And there's so many places. I feel like we could talk about it forever.
It's so many small countries that have their own identity. And
literally.
Of course, we haven't even talked about places like, for example, Slovenia, Slovakia.
You did not say that. You did not say that. Poland. Slovenians, please go after him. They will argue that they're not Eastern Europe.
And I think it's the same with Poland, right?
And Czechia especially. If you tell Czechia that you're Eastern Europe,
I'm a guy,
they're gonna lynch
facts,
you.
Facts, so it's.
You're a dead man. You just said Slovenia. And
the geographical center is somewhere in Germany, right? Of Europe. So everything east from it, from my opinion, is Eastern. Even if it's in Poland, it's still Eastern Europe. So.
What about Czechia?
Where's the geographical center of Europe?
Is it Eastern
Anything
Europe?
east from it, I hope it's not east of Czechia, but if it is,
we could make the podcast blow up very easily, but just saying Czechia is Eastern Europe, and then everyone will go after us.
Nice. So we'll put that in the front, in the beginning of the video, and then
Czechia. Okay, wait. I'll do this. Czechia is Eastern Europe.
Well, and that's the end of the episode. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for watching. No, honestly, we love all of you. Just get along down there in the Balkans.
All right. See you next week.
Okay, see you. Bye-bye. Привет.